Hello, and welcome to a review of Clash of Kings. There's no point fiddling around with anything, we're just going to get straight into it. This is the 1999 sequel to A Game of Thrones, second book in A Song of Ice and Fire. Now this comes as part of the Discord and larger read-along, where we're reading one book a month-ish, sometimes a little more. And so I put up a review of A Game of Thrones last month. It's a reread for me, loved it. For those that have been here before and watched that video, all of the positives carry over. So if you haven't watched that video, watch that to hear me gush, then come here to hear my expanded thoughts. But if you do enjoy, please do like, please do subscribe. Otherwise, God, this is good. So a kind of TLDR for the first book is fantastic characters, gorgeous writing. Martin is underrated in his prose. Even though he does like to describe food a lot. World building is almost second to none. One of the greatest created fantasy worlds ever, period. No one's beating it, really, maybe. And as a result, all of that is pumped up to 11 in this book. My takeaway from Clash of Kings is expansion. You hit this book and the world already felt so large and so immersive, and it grows in an almost incomprehensible manner. We're introduced to more characters, more different POVs. Certain ones are lost, it's fair to say, in the first book, and as a result these are replaced with some of my favourite characters in the entire series and some of my most hated characters in the entire series. There's like a sense of gall to the idea of replacing one of the most just and reasonable characters and having that viewpoint be replaced by one of the most heinously, ridiculously stupid, petty, bastard character. You hate him so much. He is the worst character from the he already was a bit off in A Game of Thrones. He is unparalleled in Clash of Kings. But you're introduced to like I was saying, Greyjoy. You've got the Iron Islands being introduced, the expansion work there of him meeting that culture, and all of the religion aspect of the drowned god. On the other hand, you've got the Lord of Light, what's being introduced with Davos being with Stannis, and the introduction of Melisandre. You've got more gods introduced that aren't even really, you don't even touch the surface. And it exemplifies the world building that was already so brilliant. And the thing I loved about the world building in A Game of Thrones is it had an urgency in the recent past, that we are still so focused on Robert's Rebellion and the aftermath of that and everything. And Clash of Kings hits it where it's like the passing of a torch to a new generation in a lot of ways. And as a result, we don't focus on that quite as much, but the lingering tendrils of effect and relationships and everything are still there, and it does an even better job of reinforcing what was already stellar. The start of this book is exceptionally slower compared to A Game of Thrones. A Game of Thrones, things are constantly happening. It's almost relentless in its pacing. Instead, A Clash of Kings really takes its time. A lot of characters are travelling and progressing, and as a result of that journey, transforming along it. And it's kind of this is a transitionary opening half of dealing with the consequences of the first book, or the actions that have taken place, and then making that change to being what's there in the second half. This is much more a chess game in the sense of moving your pieces to be in the right place to make that final move at the end of the book. And as a result, this has a lot more slow build with climactic elements dotted throughout, but then the ending is relentless. I did not want to stop, even though I know what's going to happen. That some of the descriptions in this book that I remember vividly watching the show now. That there are elements to the end of this book that are key scenes in the TV show, but instead, reading them here, the descriptive work, the similes and the metaphors used in terms of describing some of this magical elements are so vivid and so, you know what, it's a 5-star. I don't need to say more than that. The book fucking slaps so hard. It is unrivaled. I cannot wait to continue, because I cannot wait to put Song of Ice and Fire back on my best favourite fantasy series. I'd spent so long away from having read it, like a decade, that it had lost its place because I was a teenager. I didn't trust that 14, 15-year-old Ben was having exactly the most accurate and salient thoughts, it's fair to say. But it turns out man had taste, and I have nothing more to say. If you want to get involved, we're always involved in the Discord, so even if you're coming in, you're like, I'm going to start from book 1, we will be more than happy to talk to you about it. So do join. The link's down in the description with all the rest of the links for Patreon, fucking Insta, whatever. So to end the video, thank you very much to my Patreons for your continued support, and as always, have a nice rest of your day.